Good afternoon, Bay Nation. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Bay. I'm your host, Mike Williams, and here's my co-host, Geoffrey.
Good afternoon, Bay Nation.
And today we will be having Week 3 game previews. So before I get into the matchups, I wanted to let y'all know. I know that these videos are long, so if you go to the bottom of the video, you'll see that it's separated into segments. So if there's a specific game you want to check out, don't feel bad, just switch right on over to that. I want you to get whatever information you need to help you with your fantasy lineups as fast as possible. So, without further ado, let's get it started.
I'm on it, sir. Here we go.
Alright, let's get it started. Atlanta versus Chicago. Atlanta's a 3.5-point favorite, and this should actually be an interesting matchup. Julio Jones is a little dinged up, and there's a chance he could miss this game. I'll get into that in a moment. But this game is in Atlanta, so let's start with them, the home team. Matt Ryan has been playing absolutely fantastic this year. Absolutely start him, of course. Next, we're going to go to the wide receivers. The number one wide receiver on this team, Julio Jones. Oh, wait. I mean Calvin Ridley? Calvin Ridley has been on fire this week, or this year. The last 2 weeks, he is the number one player in fantasy football for the wide receivers by a large margin. It's almost like 20 points between him and the number 2 guy. Calvin Ridley has been playing out of his mind, and he is getting those touchdowns that Julio Jones never seems to be able to get. Plus, Julio Jones is dinged up and may not play. I expect Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage to both have very solid games, especially if Julio Jones is out. That being said, Chicago's no slouch. They're not bad on defense. They did get pushed around a little bit by the Lions in week 1, but I do think that the Bears is a very solid defense. Next, Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley is a shell of himself, but he is still good enough to be in your lineups. No, he's not going to get 18 touchdowns this year, but I do think that he is a solid running back 2, low-end running back 2, high-end flex play, but he can definitely be in your lineups. You may have somebody to play over him. For example, in one of my leagues, I do have Todd Gurley, and I'm currently making a decision on whether or not to play him or somebody like Stephon Diggs over him. Do not be afraid to sit Todd Gurley, but he's not a bad option. I don't want you to be too worried about him, but the other running backs, Ito Smith and Brian Hill, are both getting a little bit of action, and I thought Todd Gurley would get all the action towards the red zone, and that hasn't necessarily been the case. And you can also start the tight end, Hayden Hurst, and the kicker. I'm probably not starting the defense. All right, next we'll go to Chicago Bears. Mitchell Trubisky is the starting quarterback. Not playing him. He has had a couple solid games. The first game was meh until the fourth quarter, and in the second game he actually looked pretty solid. But we're not starting him. Next, we'll go to the wide receiver position. I think you can start Allen Robinson, even though he has had a slower start to the season. I do believe you can start him. I'm not touching Anthony Miller, though. I gotta see it to believe it. I know that he's talented, but talent doesn't just magically appear fantasy points. Alright, next, we have the running back position. David Montgomery, I think you can start. Tariq Cohen, I won't be starting for sure. Next, we have the tight end position and the resurgence of Jimmy Graham. Apparently, he's relevant again. So, if you are desperate at tight end, you can start Jimmy Graham. And I'm worried about that defense. Atlanta has been on fire this week. Well, not in the win column, but they've been on fire offensively this year. So I'm not too excited about the Bears. If you have another option, I would get them. And I'm probably not touching their kicker. All right, now let's pick this game. Like I said earlier, the Atlanta Falcons are 3.5-point favorites. Could be missing Julio Jones, but do I really trust Mitch Trubisky? I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons to win this game by a little over a field goal. All right, I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. All right, this next matchup is going to be the LA Rams versus the Buffalo Bills. This game's going to be in Buffalo, so let's start with them. Starting at the top, my man, Josh Allen, has been playing absolutely amazing. He has been fantastic this year. Smash play, you got to play him. He is a beast. He gets it done with his legs, and now apparently he can pass the ball. Heck yeah, keep it going, Josh. All right, next we're going to get to those. Oh, before I get off of that, he will probably throw a couple picks in this game. Just an FYI. But I think his rushing will balance that out. But he'll probably throw at least a couple picks and maybe a fumble. All right, next we have wide receiver position, Stephon Diggs. Can you dig it? Stephon Diggs is the man, but he's going to be shadowed by Jalen Ramsey. For those of you who do not know, shadowing is when a cornerback follows a wide receiver wherever he moves on the field. And Jalen Ramsey is one of the best in the league. So, I definitely think we have to downgrade Stephon Diggs a little bit. But I do like Stephon Diggs. I think that he could have an okay game. He's one of those players that can get a nice deep field threat. And if he can beat Jalen Ramsey one time, it can make his day. Next, we have John Brown, who's been pretty good this year. But he also has a bad cornerback matchup. He's been more of a flex play. You could probably still play him if you're desperate at flex, but his upside is definitely limited with the cornerback play against him. Next, we have the running back position. Zach Moss is actually going to be out for this game, I believe, and that is going to give Devin Singletary way more work. So, I think that you can start Devin Singletary as a low-end running back too, high-end flex play. Next, we have the tight end position, which I'm not starting them. The defense, I think that you can start against the Rams. Here's the thing. If you drafted the Bills defense, you're going to start them every week because you're probably not going to roster two defenses. The Bills are a fantastic defense, and they also have an amazing cornerback themselves, Tre'Davious White. He's going to shadow as well. I think that he's going to do some work. I like their defense, even though they're a little banged up. And you can probably start the kicker. Next, we're going to go to the LA Rams. All right, starting at the top, Jared Goff. I don't want to start him, but I do think that he could have an okay game. The Bills' defense is really good, though, so I'm thinking there's a turnover or two. Obviously, I'm not starting Jared Goff. Next, you could go to the wide receiver position, and Robert Woods is going to be shadowed by Tre'Davious White, the guy I just talked about before. He is very good. I think that Robert Woods can still have a solid game, but I would temper my expectations for him. Moving on to Cooper Kupp, or Matthew Berry's little Cooper Kupp. I have to say that. So, Cooper Kupp, he is not performing up to expectations so far this year. He has not been playing very well, almost at all. I'm not quite sure if this is going to change in this game because the Bills are pretty good defensively. But I think that he should be good moving forward. I have him as a flex play this week. I'm not seeing what I'd like to see out of him, so I'm going to keep him in flex territory until he performs. That being said, Robert Woods getting shadowed. He could get a couple more looks, as well as this next guy I'm about to talk about, Tyler Higbee. You can definitely start Tyler Higbee, their tight end. He's an absolute beast. Start him every week until further notice, basically. All right, we're going to go to the running back position. Cam Akers has a separated ribs, I believe. My goodness, it sounds terrible, but he's out. And then Malcolm Brown has a fractured finger. Now, I hear that he is going to play. So that means that it's going to be between him and Darrell Henderson. I prefer to start Darrell Henderson if you're choosing between the two. And there's a chance that Malcolm Brown falls into the end zone, but I still think Darrell Henderson showed that he had a little bit of spunk last week. He played absolutely fantastic, and I think you can start him as a flex play. Next, their defense. I actually think you can start their defense. I know the Bills have been on fire this year, but Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey are on this defense, and they're not going anywhere, so you could always probably start them. All right. Time to pick this game. The spread is -2.5 for the Bills. Both of these teams are 2-0 in very interesting fashion. The Bills actually almost lost to Miami the other day. I do think that they win, though. I think that the Bills can come through and take this dub. All right. I think that that's going to do it for this one. Geoffrey, you got anything?
Josh Allen had 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. That is a vast improvement from last year.
That's going to do it. On to the next one. All right, this next matchup is going to be the Arizona Cardinals versus the Detroit Lions. We're going to start off with Arizona because they're the home team. Kyler Murray has been on fire this year. He has been playing out of his mind, and I think that continues against the Lions. They can't stop the run, and he's going to run all over them. Next, we have the wide receiver position. DeAndre Hopkins has been fantastic since he's gotten to Arizona. He's going to be great in this game, too. Fire him up. Next, and I'm not starting Larry Fitzgerald, and Christian Kirk is injured. But if you're desperate and you need a flex play, Larry Fitzgerald probably get you 10 to 12 points this week. All right, next we have the running back position. I think you can definitely start Kenyon Drake. Did you see what Aaron Jones did to Detroit last week? He ran all over them. All over them. I am definitely playing Kenyon Drake this week. I think he has a great week. Next, we have the tight end position. I don't believe I'm starting their tight end. Next, defense. Before they had Kenny Golladay, I was kind of on the fence with them being a starter because I think that their defenses looked pretty decent, and going against Detroit without Kenny Golladay isn't bad. I think that Kenny Golladay adds a deep field threat, and that's exactly what Detroit has been lacking so far. So I think that Arizona's defense might be meh this week, considering they're going to have a full roster. Next, we have the kicker. You can start the kicker if you want. Let's go to Detroit, the Lions. Matthew Stafford has had a rough start at it. 0-2, very unfortunate. But I think that Matthew Stafford starts to turn it around with the addition of Kenny Golladay. You know, you lose your number one wide receiver, you're not going to play as well as you normally would. So, I think that Matthew Stafford should have a solid game. If you need quarterback help, I think he can actually have a pretty good game. Next, we have the wide receiver position. Kenny Golladay is coming back from injury. I have him as a low-end wide receiver too, mainly because of the injury. I am always a little bit worried when I start players that are coming off of an injury, just because you don't know how they're going to be, and guys want to get back in the lineup. They want to play, even if they're not ready. So I'm always a little hesitant when I'm starting players coming off of injuries. Next, we have Marvin Jones Jr. You can definitely start him up as a solid flex play. And that's it for the receivers. Running back, we have Deontay Swift and Adrian Peterson. I think those are the two that are going to have a majority of the role. I think Kerryon Johnson's going to be mixed in there. I saw he had a touchdown last week. It wasn't too bad, but I don't think he's going to get enough work to be viable. I'm not trying to start Adrian Peterson if I don't have to. But to be 100% honest, I'm not trying to start any of them. I'm not a fan of the Detroit Lions backfield. If I had to pick as of right now, it's a toss-up between Swift and Adrian Peterson, and I think Swift is involved in the passing game more, so I'd probably go Swift over AP. Next, AP meaning Adrian Peterson. Next, we have the tight end, TJ Hawkinson. I actually think that he could be a fine play this week against Arizona. Arizona is not amazing against the tight end, so I think that he could be fine. After that, we got the defensive kicker. I'm not starting their defense, but Matt Prater can start for me any week. All right, we're going to have to pick this game. It's a 5.5-point spread. Not the easiest one in the world. It was going to be super easy to pick Arizona before Kenny Galladay's back, but now I actually think this is going to be a solid matchup. But I think Arizona gets it done in the end. And I think that's going to do it for this one. On to the next one. Up next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Philadelphia Eagles. This game is in Philadelphia, so we're going to start with those Eagles. Starting off with Carson Wentz. He has had a rough start to the year. Receivers going down left and right. Miles Sanders was down for a bit. Boston Scott was in and out of the lineup. The only thing that has been steady is his tight ends, and I feel for him, but he has been playing very poorly, just in general. So you're going to bench him this week. I'm not down on him for the whole year yet. I'm not willing to throw him away. It's only been two weeks. He hasn't had his weapons. But as of right now, you're benching him if you have him, still have him. Next, we have the running back position. You're going to start Miles Sanders. You drafted him in the first or second round. He's an excellent talent. He's a beast. Start him up. Next, we have the wide receiver position, and we're going to not really have much to talk about here. Alshon Jeffrey is a little bit injured, or he is injured, and he's not playing. By the way, though, you might want to pick him up because I think that when he comes back, he's going to have a pretty solid role, and he could be coming back in the next couple of weeks. Just a little helpful hint. But for people that you're actually starting this week, I would start Deshaun Jackson. I think that he is basically last man standing. Jalen Reagor got injured. Who knows how long he's going to be out. He could be out for the whole year. It's terrible injury luck for this team. It's awful. Next, we're going to go to the tight end position. You can start both of them, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. There's a chance that they both have very good games. So I'm good with starting both of them. I'm not starting their defense, but you can start Jake Elliott because he's Jake Elliott. He's pretty solid. Next, we're going to go to Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow is looking good. He played very well last week, and I actually think that he has a pretty solid game this week. I don't know if you want to start him. I think that there's a lot of other players that you could start over him, but he is not the worst option in the world. I like Joe Burrow moving forward. I think he's going to be very good. Next, we have the wide receiver position. I think that AJ Green is getting targeted a lot. He's just not turning it into fantasy points yet. I actually love AJ Green. I think that you can go out and get him for cheap, and I think it'd be worth it because he is getting the amount of target volume where it's gonna come through. It just hasn't done it yet. Missed out on a touchdown in game 1, missed out on a touchdown in game 2. Both of those would have changed everybody's opinion on his day if you added an extra 8 fantasy points to each one of his weeks. So I actually like AJ Green as a low-end wide receiver 2 this week. It's not the best matchup, especially because they have Darius Slay now, but I do think that he can perform. I'm not super excited about it, but moving forward, I do think that he is going to be good. Tyler Boyd is more of a flex play if you want to play him. Next is the running back position. Joe Mixon has not been having a great year so far, but I do think that he is start worthy. Obviously, you draft him in the first 2 rounds. I think that he is going to be a fine play. I just don't think that he's going to blow the top off the defense. Next, we have the tight end position. CJ Uzomah went down in last week's game, and we saw a lot of Drew Sample once the offense started clicking again. I'm not saying start him, but keep your eye out for him. There's a chance that he gets targeted more than people think. Rookies like to throw to their tight end position. It's a very safe pass. All right, next, I'm not starting their defense. I'm not starting the kicker. The spread for this game is -6.5 Eagles. Kind of surprised about that. I feel like that's a pretty big spread considering how dinged up the Eagles are. I'm taking Joe Burrow. Even if he doesn't get his first win, which, by the way, both of these teams are 0-2, so someone's going to have to come out with a win by default, unless they get a tie, which totally could happen. But I like Joe Burrow, and I like this offense. I think that they're going to start getting it together, clicking, moving forward. All right, I think that's going to do it. On to the next one. All right, this next matchup is going to be the Cleveland Browns versus the Washington football team. This game is in Cleveland, so we're going to start there. Baker Mayfield has not been playing very well, so we're not going to start him. On to the next. Wide receivers. Odell Beckham finally had a solid week. Good for you, Odell. Rooting for you, bud. I think that you can start him as a wide receiver 2. Jarvis Landry has not been performing this year, and he's a borderline flex for me. If you don't have to play him, I wouldn't. I'm not sure if it's because he's dinged up, but he has not been performing, so low end flex play for me. All right, next we have the running back position. You should play both of these people every week. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They are very, very good. And depending on the game script, depends on who's going to get more touches, but they're both viable to be very productive. Last week, they were both top 5. That's incredible. You could definitely start them both in this matchup. I do like Washington's defensive line, but I think that this offense should be able to take care of that. Next, we have the tight end position. I don't want to start any of them. You can also use the Browns defense because I don't think Washington's going to score a lot of points anyways. Kickers. You can play their kicker if you want. Next, we have Washington football team. Dwayne Haskins, you're not starting him. He has not proven to be start worthy. Wide receivers, Terry McLaurin. He has been playing absolutely fantastic on this god-awful team. He has been playing very well. And you know what? Philly lost to them week 1. Terry McLaurin is a very talented wide receiver, and I think that he can do some work this week. Next, we have the running back position. The only running back I'm going to be starting, and as a flex that is going to be Antonio Gibson. He's extremely talented, and I think that his workload is going to increase moving forward down the line, and I think that he would be a solid flex play. Next, we have the tight end position. I'm not starting Logan Thomas, but he is somebody I've been looking out for. And I'm not starting their defense or their kicker. All right, this is a 5.5 point spread for the Browns. Ooh, I actually think that this game could be close for a bit, but I think that Cleveland pulls away. All right, I definitely got Cleveland winning this game. 6.5 points is a solid amount for a spread, but I do think that they can cover. All right, on to the next one. Geoffrey.
Yes, sir.
Where's the stadium, man?
My system has not updated yet, sir.
What do you mean your system isn't updated yet?
The Chargers have recently moved into their new stadium and my satellites have yet to reach that part of the country. I am sorry for the inconvenience, sir.
Sorry, Bay Nation. That's unfortunate, but we're going to power through. It's all good, Geoffrey. Happens to the best of us. You just let me know when it gets updated, alright?
Yes, sir.
And did something happen to the lights?
I am increasing the brightness now, sir.
That's better. Alright. Now for the analysis. In this matchup, we're going to be going over the Carolina Panthers versus the LA Chargers. And the Chargers are at home, so let's start with them. Starting at the quarterback position, Tyrod Taylor was the quarterback, and then he was having some pain in his chest, so had a nice little injection. The problem is the doctor hit him in the lungs and sent him to the hospital. That is insane. Now, this is an issue that can happen when you do this sort of procedure just because of how close the ribs are to the lungs, obviously. But it's still terrible for Tyrod Taylor. He went to the hospital. He's out now, but he's still not 100%. That being said, I believe they're going to go with Justin Herbert. So these projections are under the understanding that Justin Herbert is going to be playing. This changes who I like for a couple of reasons, just because who each quarterback likes to target. So, going forward with Justin Herbert, I don't think that you should start him, but he looked great against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs defense is pretty solid. So, I actually think that he could have a good game here. I'm not starting him. I'm not that brave. But if you're brave or you want a DFS play, have at it. I think that Justin Herbert should have a fine game because Carolina's defense does not scare me at all, and Herbert looked great. Next, we're going to the wide receiver position. Keenan Allen looking good under Herbert. That's what I'm talking about. Finally, I love Keenan Allen. I just was a little worried about him having Tyrod Taylor. It looks like under Justin Herbert, he's going to actually do some work, so I think you should fire him up as a wide receiver too. Next, we have Mike Williams. Mike Williams didn't have a great game, but he also was targeted in the end zone from deep and didn't catch it. I actually think Mike Williams can have an okay game here, but he's a flex at best as of right now. Next, we have the running back position. You can start both of these. Joshua Kelly and Austin Eckler. They're both fantastic plays. I think that Austin Eckler obviously is that lead back role, but Jonathan Kelly has been getting a lot of work this year. So I think that you can feel safe starting him in one of your lineups. I'm starting him in one of mine. I'm decimated at injuries, but I'm still starting him. Next, we have the tight end position. Hunter Henry looks fantastic with Justin Herbert. Absolutely fire him up. You can start this defense against this injured Carolina offense, and I'm not worried about Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater had multiple turnovers last week, a fumble, a couple of terrible picks. Awful. So I definitely think that the Chargers should be able to do some work on the defensive end. Next, we have the kicker, and you can start the kicker if you want. All right, let's get to the Carolina Panthers. Starting at the top, Teddy Bridgewater, like I said, he had a terrible game last week. We're not starting him. On to the next one. Wide receivers. DJ Moore actually looked pretty solid last week. I think that they're going to be playing from behind a lot, so you're going to have to throw the ball. I think DJ Moore is going to be a fine play, even though he is going to have some terrible coverages. The Chargers have one of the best secondaries in the league, so DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson are downgraded a little bit for me, specifically because their matchup is going to be absolutely terrible. But I still think that you can play both of them. Next, we have the running back position. Christian McCaffrey is out. He is on IR for the next 3 weeks, so we're going to go with Mike Davis. Mike Davis should have a pretty solid game. I think he's going to get it done more in the air than he will on the ground, but in fantasy football, that's amazing. Get all the catches. Pretty sure he had 8 catches last week. That's absolutely fantastic. All right, next, we're going to the tight end position, and I'm not starting Ian Thomas. I'm not starting their defense or their kicker. All right, it's time to pick this game. This is a 7.5 point spread for the Chargers, which is a big spread for a rookie. I'm going to be honest with you, not super confident about this. I think that the Chargers are going to win the game, but 7.5, you know what? They don't have Christian McCaffrey. I think that this defense is going to be like a Volt, baby, lockdown. And I think that Justin Herbert is going to come out and do some work and get his first win. All right, I think that's going to do it. Jeffrey, you got anything?
Austin Eckler and Joshua Kelly are going to be great all year, but this is a fantastic matchup for them.
That really is a dynamic duo. Talk about a 1-2 punch. All right, sounds good. On to the next one. All right, up next we have the Green Bay Packers versus the New Orleans Saints. So let's start with those Saints because they're the home team this week. Drew Brees has not been playing up to as advertised, but that's what happens when you lose your top wide receiver and your wide receiver 2 is new to the team. I think that he is a borderline start this week. There are better options out there. He doesn't seem like he's really in sync with Emmanuel Sanders as of right now. That being said, I do think that Michael Thomas comes back in the next couple weeks. Drew Brees gets it in order, but as of right now, you may have a better option. Next, you have the wide receiver position. Like I said before, Michael Thomas is out, or he will most likely be out. Emmanuel Sanders really disappointed last week. It was absolutely awful. Do I think that they can get it together? Yes, because I think Emmanuel Sanders is a fantastic wide receiver, but him and Drew are not on the same page yet. Next, Tre'Quan Smith. I'm not going to be starting him. I do think that you can have a speculative ad for him, but I'm not starting him, nor am I really rostering him anymore. Next, we have the running back position. Alvin Kamara is an absolute beast. He is the easiest start in this matchup because he is fantastic. So obviously fire him up. Latavius Murray, I don't really think that you should play him, but if you do, all he is a low-end flex play as of right now. That being said, I do think that the Saints should run the ball more. Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, nice 1-2 punch, but as of right now, Alvin Kamara is getting almost all the work. Next, we have Jared Cook. Jared Cook did not have a great outing last week, but I do think that he can have better games moving forward, and this should be a solid matchup for him. Next, we have the defense. I don't like to play defenses against Aaron Rodgers. I'm just not a big fan of it. Is it a terrible idea? No, because New Orleans has an amazing defense, but against Aaron, no, I'm going to pass on that one. And you can start their kicker because Will Lutz is a beast. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers. With Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams, does get a downgrade, but I do still think you can play him. He is extremely talented, and his wide receivers that I'm about to discuss, not too bad. Let's move on to those wide receivers. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, also known as MVS, which is what we're going to be going for the rest of the time. MVS is very solid. He had a couple downfield targets. I do think that he is probably going to be the go-to person for Aaron Rodgers. But that being said, is he going to get shadowed by Lattimore, the shadow corner on the Saints? If he does, I'd downgrade him a lot. But if he doesn't, I actually think he could have a fine game. Next, we have Allen Lazard. Between him and MVS, coin flip. I take MVS, but some people will take Lazard. I'm not really fighting for either of them. MVS could be fine. Next, we have the running back position, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a beast. Absolutely fantastic week last week. He destroyed the Lions. I'm not going to go too much into that because you're going to start Aaron Jones. Next, we have the tight end. No way starting Jay Sternberger. Then we have the defense. No thank you. Kicker, you can definitely start Mason Crosby. All right, now we got to pick this game. Somehow, the Saints are -3.5 point favorites. No thank you. I think that bad man comes into town and doesn't lose by more than a field goal. That's crazy. All right, I think that's going to do it. On to the next one. All right, that's going to do it for part 1 of the game previews. Week 3, let me know what I got right, what I got wrong. If you didn't see a matchup that you like in this one, it's probably going to be in the other video. So don't forget to check it out. I hope you enjoy it. Talk to you later. Peace.